Aaron Philo versus Tramell Jones Jr. for the Florida Gators quarterback position. My name is Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making the Portal Podcast your first listen each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We're going to be discussing these two young quarterbacks who have very little experience, but do have some positives. And it's going to be important to discuss which one is more likely not to turn it over and be able to push the ball down the field. We're also going to be discussing the Gators' schedule. Does either one of these players, from a stylistic standpoint, give them an edge? What do they have to do to impress Buster Faulkner, who comes over from Georgia Tech with Philo to be with the Gators? Let's start with the basics on who these young men are, where they come from, and how they look, at least thus far in their college careers. Not a lot of experience, not a lot of production, but they haven't been given many opportunities. So here are their stats. Let's start with Tramell Jones Jr. He played in 2 games last year against Long Island and Kentucky, 21 of 35 for 60%, 191 yards, 5.5 yards per attempt, 2 scores, and not a single interception. And for Philo, 21 of 28, 75%, 373 yards, 13.3 yards per attempt. That's pretty impressive. 1 touchdown and 1 interception. He played in a basic game. He didn't play in a major situation, but he actually played in 24 a little bit more. So he's been in college for 2 years, while Tramell Jones Jr., on the other hand, has been just 1. The edge for Jones is he knows that roster. He knows that school. He's probably going to be more comfortable. However, on the other side, Philo, he knows the coordinator personally. That guy recruited him to come play at Tech. He was 2 years under his tutelage, and while he sat behind Haynes King, he did play a little bit, and he had some opportunities to do pretty good, especially in 2024 as a freshman. So I am very curious to see if Philo fits right in and he's comfortable. We'll get to find out a little bit more about that as spring practice draws near. But I do have some questions about both of these guys that I want to ask, and it'll help answer a couple of key questions. And I want to keep bringing these back up. Pushing the ball down the field is paramount in any big-time level of football. I don't care how you look at it, SEC, Big 10, ACC, Big 12. If you cannot push the ball down the field in the passing game and do so consistently to threaten the safeties, to threaten the corners, your chances of success are not going to be that high. I'm curious which one will be better. And secondarily, it's riskier to do that. Can you do so without turning the ball over? Take this into consideration. For what it's worth, I saw Tramell play when he was a freshman in high school. Known him a long, long time. That's a young man that played at Mandarin High School, one of the better programs in the state of Florida, and he was good at understanding concepts, reading defenses, even as a 15-year-old. Now, on the other side, it's pretty impressive. Philo is one of the all-time leaders in the state of Georgia in passing. He played at a very good program and threw it all over the place before he went and played with Faulkner at Georgia Tech. So they got into the sport and did well very early. You're not going to be 2 guys that took over jobs as like freshmen, sophomores in high school and just ran with it unless you were very talented above the shoulders. Quarterback is not easy. So both of them have that going for them. They're both somewhat mobile, so that's interesting too, but I'm not sure if they're going to try to run the quarterback. Like Haynes King's a very unique guy, and he's thrown it around some in some of his stops, and he's also been more balanced. Like he was at the University of Georgia as a little while too. He's seen different offenses. So they could adjust based on the history of Buster Faulkner to the player behind center. So here are a couple of things to think about here. Number one, is there a scheme advantage for Aaron Philo that just can't be overlooked and it's that straightforward? Is he going to win this job just because he knows the scheme? What do you think? Personally, I don't think that's the case. They're not that much different. Tramell is really not that much different than Philo in style. He's a little bit smaller, but not a lot. And again, he's familiar with being in Gainesville, being at UF. Those things matter. We're talking about guys that are very young. The littlest thing could impact how a young man performs on a Saturday in front of 100,000 people inside the swamp. That's a big deal. Secondarily, Jones, does he have an advantage just because he knows the players? Probably a little bit better than Philo does. Yeah, that's an edge. It's not an end-all, be-all. But if he has a special relationship with any of those receivers in particular, or maybe some of the linemen, that could possibly give him an edge. They'll have to figure that stuff out. Those meetings, understanding the chalkboard, what calls to make or to get rid of based on protections, based on if they're seeing zone, whether they're seeing man, whatever it may be. Those are big factors for Buster Faulkner to figure out, okay, Jones is my guy or Philo is my guy. They're going to have to prove it in his scheme in this light in spring ball. Next, this is the tough one. I mentioned this just a minute ago, and I really don't know what direction they're going to go. You're not going to run as much as you did when you had Haynes King. That's self-explanatory. But could either one of these guys be at least efficient on 3rd and 1? Not saying they're going to be Tim Tebow battering ram, but either one of them. Can they make guys miss? Can they be a true dual threat, especially against upper echelon teams in the SEC? I'm going to get to their schedule in a few minutes. It's still not easy, but like they play Texas on the road. You've got to find ways to kind of overcome. Quarterback run game is certainly one way to do it. Decisions made after spring. So I will be shocked if Faulkner, John Sumrall et al. Have a final decision. That's just not normally how it goes. Probably going to wait through spring, and they're going to want to go as far as they can into fall before making a decision. Week, 2 weeks is my guess. Is that guaranteed, though? If one of them lights it up, probably not. We'll see if it happens, and that would be a certain benefit because then you can start mitigating the reps for one guy, and then the other quarterback gets more with the number ones. That would certainly behoove them if that's the case. But again, the thing that I want to know, who is better at pushing the ball down the field? That's so important in today's college football world. I don't think either one of them will have a lot of problems with it, and they're such similar players. This is one of the most intriguing quarterback battles in all of college football at the University of Florida. Aaron Philo could do that, and so could Tramell Jones Jr. Don't discount either one. When we come back, I'm going to talk a little bit about their schedule and why I think that both of them could end up being needed with the Florida Gators this year, because if not, that schedule could eat them up. That is next here on the Portal Podcast. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Mazda. This is the Mazda moving the game forward for those who show there's more to the score than what's on the screen. And I want to use Buster Faulkner as that example. I mentioned a few minutes ago, Buster Faulkner came to Georgia Tech. He adjusted from some of his previous stops, and he found this quarterback by the name of Haynes King and just grabbed on to anything they needed to do. When they needed to throw more, they adjusted. When they needed to rely on Haynes King as a runner, they did. And when they needed balance, they did it. He found a way to be that guy to coach his players for the best for each and every game. And that's why he ended up being the coordinator of the Gators. He earned his mark. This kind of situation reminds us of what it really takes to raise the bar. It's that extra work, that dialing in every detail, giving it that extra fire, that grit, and I never quit. We put that same passion into every model. Highlights make the reel. What it took to get there makes it count. There's more to a Mazda because there is more to you. We're also brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person? FanDuel is giving you that chance to turn that dream into reality with NBA sweepstakes. Here's how it works. Use your profit boost on any NBA future, and you'll automatically be entered for a shot to win the NBA Finals trip for two. That's right. Flights, tickets, the whole experience with FanDuel. If you're already thinking about a future, maybe it's the conference finals for the West, you think one team's definitely going to win it, there's your opportunity right there. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on any NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day. And if you want to take your game to the next level, check out the Everydayer Club down below. The best thing about it is the opportunity for any audio listener to get their situation with no ads. None at all. Whatever one you use, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Podbean, it does not matter. $5 a month or $50 a year, nothing. No ads whatsoever. Check it out, the Everydayer Club down below. There is also a Discord with fans from all over the country you can interact with. Check out the Everydayer Club. Now let's discuss something that's very important as we go into the schedule. Florida is a pressure cooker. John Sumrall is not going to be walking into a job where they're going to give him a lot of time. But he is going to have a new quarterback that is inexperienced. Can he find a way to do that? Absolutely. Offense works with defense, and of course, special teams. That's the third and sometimes the magic elixir. If Florida can play the kind of defense that Sumrall is known for, being a tough, hard-nosed team, they'll have a chance in some of these close games. And I have faith in both Tramell Jones Jr. and Aaron Philo, based on what I've seen of them, that they could take that step forward. It's still going to be very important. Those third down calls to get into short yardage and fourth down, or avoiding fourth down altogether. You don't want to put these guys in a lot of pressure cooker fourth down scenarios, especially in SEC games. That's something to think about. The coaching is really going to matter regardless of Philo or Jones being behind center. And now it is time to talk about the Gators football schedule. It's not super hard, but that's just compared to what they did last couple of years. It was very difficult. First two games, Florida Atlantic and Campbell, those got to be W's. It's ironic, game number 3 on September the 19th, the Gators travel to the Plains to take on the Auburn Tigers. Many thought that John Sumrall was going to be the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, but it ended up being Florida, while at the same time, some thought Alex Golish was going to end up at Florida. He ends up at Auburn. So it's just a switch, but they're going to play each other in each of their first SEC games as a head coach. So that game takes place on the Plains, and then it's the beginning of a gauntlet. Ole Miss, they come down to the Swamp. It's ironic because that's a game a couple years ago that really ruined Ole Miss's season. Now, Kiffin's gone, but Ole Miss with Trinidad Chambliss, he is not gone. That's a really tough back-to-back. Auburn on the road, then Ole Miss. But then you go to Missouri. Ironically, there's some situation that kind of fits in with Florida from the past as well with this game. There's a quarterback that committed to Florida. He ended up going to Ole Miss, and now he has transferred to Missouri. This is the kind of situation that makes the transfer portal in college football in general just really wild. Austin Simmons takes over for Missouri. This is a kid that's from South Florida. He was a big-time baseball and football recruit, and he was committed to the Gators. But he ended up with Kiffin for a few years, and now he's at Missouri with Trinidad Chambliss still in Oxford. He's going to get his chance to go up against the school he was one time a commitment to. So that game's in Columbia. That's a tough place to go. They got South Carolina the week after that. Still no bye week. That's tough. So you're looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's the 6th game in a row. South Carolina's not unbelievable, but they got Lenora Sellers. You can't take that game lightly, because the next week, your 7th game in a row, you go to Texas. Good luck before you finally get a bye on October 24th. Then you play your hated rival, the Georgia Bulldogs. It's in Atlanta this year. It's not in Jacksonville, but that'll basically be a Georgia home game. You go after that and come home to Oklahoma, coming to your house. I'm not sure if John Mateer is going to be that guy, but that's an interesting game. Then the finish for the Gators is a little bit easier than most of the SEC teams. Kentucky on the road, it's still an SEC road game, but, it's Kentucky. Vanderbilt no longer has Diego Pavia. That is the final home game for Florida. And then they go to Florida State, who I expect to be in complete disarray like they are now until otherwise proven. So the final 3 is not as difficult as what it might be. And as I promised, here's the deal. I still think that both of them are similar players, but whichever one is just flat out more comfortable in the Swamp is the key, because some of those road games in Georgia in the Dome up there, Mercedes-Benz, there's going to be a hard time figuring that out. Okay, that's not easy. But I really do believe that one or both of them can guide them to 8 wins. They could upset somebody. They could win a game at Missouri. They could win a game just about anywhere. The one I'm just steadfast they're not going to win is Texas. That's your 7th game in a row, and it's on the road. Outside of that, I think about any game on that schedule is winnable. I really like Sumrall. I really like the fact that their roster is starting to kind of look like a more traditional physical team like University of Florida should. And both these guys are cerebral. They've proven it. There's no reason to think they both couldn't make it happen. The only thing that I'll add, at some point, especially if Faulkner and Sumrall decide, you know what, we do really need to run these quarterbacks, they're probably going to need both of them. And do not be surprised if each starts at least a couple of games, not just because of switching quarterbacks, but because of injury as well. It could be one of those two things or both. The Florida quarterback situation is very fluid. I don't know who it's going to be that ends up winning the job, but they're similar. So this is going to be intriguing. And college football may not have a more competitive quarterback race this year. Thank you once again for making the Portal Podcast a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the nation's #1 podcasting network, Locked On. We will see you again soon, right here on the Portal Podcast.